Alright, so what we got here is we were just blowing off a lawnmower here, and this previously repaired air hose popped apart. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut off this side obviously that popped off the barb fitting. So we're going to cut this off here, and then we're going to re-crimp it. So you can repair an air hose in various ways. You can use the typical screwed hose clamp. They're a bit bulkier than these. These are actually PEX. These are actually 1/2-inch PEX waterline crimps that I'm using. There's many ways that you can do this, but I use these because the clamps are way neater than your typical screw clamp. I want to see here if I can show you the standard style clamps that people use for this stuff. So an example of a typical style clamp that people would use for doing this would be these style, where you need a nut driver. This is usually like a 5/16 or a 1/4-inch nut driver for screwing them tight. And the good part about these is you can always retighten them afterwards if they tend to come loose over time. Whereas these, they're way bulkier than these that I'm using here, these PEX ones. So we're gonna try this one more time, and if these come apart again, I'm gonna have to go back to your old typical screw type fittings. And then what we're also gonna do on this is we're gonna finish this off with some electrical tape, because when you're sliding this through your hands as you're letting it back in the reel, it wants to rip your hand. So this is a retracting hose reel by, I forget what it was called, Flexzilla, and that's a video for another day. But today we're just going to repair this hose here. I'll show you how you do that. Sorry for if it's shaking for us. So I'm going to try to make sure that it stays within the frame here as I'm doing it. So one part of it is still good. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut off this one part. I should have had my tools ready, but I didn't. So this is a Flexzilla hose. This is a 50-foot, what they call a 3/8 hose. See if I can move this closer here. See if I can move this closer so that you get a good view of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my knife, just behind this clamp, and then just do a gentle sawing back and forth action. Just gently saw back and forth. Try to cut it off as straight as you can. Turn it with you as you're cutting it. There you go. That's a pretty clean cut. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to cut off the expanded part of the hose that was on that barb fitting. See, this is somewhat expanded where it was on that fitting. So you're trying to get to the undamaged part of the hose where you're going to reclamp it. So I was going to use shrink tubing to finish off the clamp part, but I don't think I have big enough shrink tubing, so we're just going to use electrical tape. So before you stick this together, look how easily it goes together. This is not really ideal. It's a 3/8 barb fitting, but it's pretty loose on there. So let me grab us a 1/2-inch PEX Crimp. So what these are for 1/2-inch PEX waterline crimps. And you can get these fairly cheap online. I think a kit on like the eBay of worlds with this crimper and 3 or 4 different sizes of these crimps is pretty inexpensive. So how you release this is there's a release button on here. Let's see if I can still do this. I haven't done this in quite some time. Oh yeah, you go like this. You press it all the way together and then it releases. See? It's a ratcheting. You want a ratcheting tool like this crimper. So what it does is the jaws, see the jaws? They come together. That's how you crimp. That's how they crimp it. So you put this crimp. See, it looks like a finger, like a finger ring, and you put that nib on the end. You put it in the crimper's jaws up top here. I'm gonna see if I can show you. Let's see here if I can show you how that works. So you would put this on the hose, and then you would make sure that this is all the way apart, and then you would put this nib in the jaws of the crimper like that, and then crimp it, and it will draw this together. And what happens is, as it's drawing it together, it's latching these from one notch to the next as tight as it can. It's actually pretty ingenious, and it's a use once. Like, you can never undo this. So let's go ahead and assemble this. We'll assemble this into what we need it to be. See how I crimped this one originally? See how I drew that together? See this, how tall it got when it scrunched it together? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this new clamp on here, like so. And I'm gonna line these up. I'm gonna line these up, and I'm gonna line this up here. Put the hose on like that. I'm gonna line this crimp up, put it back about the same distance as the other one. And then we're gonna make sure that my camera sees this. There we go. You don't want to do a video where you don't see what you're doing. Or your audience doesn't see what you're doing. Okay, like that. That looks pretty good. And now we're gonna get our crimper on top of this. Hopefully you can see it. I'm gonna turn this ever so slightly this way. Hopefully we can see this now. Let's see. Am I too close? Let's move it up a bit. There we go. So we're gonna move it up here. So if you've ever crimped PEX, the concept is the same. You're just doing airline instead of, this is soft rubbery airline versus the plasticky PEX that you use for waterline. So let's get our tool up on this. Like that. Make sure that your hose ends are touching. Gee. I might have to start it and then grab it again. Let's see. It's not making it easy, is it? Okay, so you want this to sit down as you're doing it. Put this tool on the top. Okay, let's see what we can do. See how it's ratcheting once it's together? Oh man, I did it crooked. Man, I did it crooked. I totally ruined it. Wow. I totally ruined it. I'm gonna have to do it again. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this up here. I'm gonna slide on a new clamp. Like that. And we're gonna slide it onto the barb. Like that. Make sure that it's nice and snug against the barb. And we're gonna space our clamp the same distance from the seam as the other one. And then we're gonna put our crimper on. Just ready. It's open all the way. Make sure that it's open all the way. I'm gonna try to get that on this. You gotta put it on the crimping part of the. You gotta get the jaw on the crimping part of fitting. Like that. It's tricky. It's trickier than just using a old-fashioned. I wonder if there's a difference, you know, in which way you put it on. I don't understand this. It doesn't look like it's far enough apart. Yeah, there we go. I think it wasn't far enough apart. So we had to open the jaw some more. So there we go. So we gotta make sure that it's on there correctly. You gotta make sure that it's the hoses ends are met. You gotta make sure that it's the same distance from the seam as the original fitting. Where's the original clamp? Yeah, should have asked her to come out and help here. It's tricky. It's tricky lining it all up with one hand and then trying to crimp it with the second. We'll try. Can always cut it off and do it again. There we go. That feels better. The first one that I did was pretty. There we go. So with the ratcheting tool, you squeeze it until the tool comes apart again. So as you can see, I didn't totally line them up. I was trying to get these lined up. These two. Anyway, but it did a really good job. It crimped it. And you can see the seam in between them is really matched up. So what we're going to do is we're going to tape this area. Because what happens is when you're reeling this in, when you're putting this through the retractable hose reel, and it comes through your hand here, it could actually rip your hand pretty badly because it's going in pretty fast when it's passing through to go into the hose reel. So I'm going to grab some tape here and a knife, and then we'll tape up this area here so that can't damage your hand, rip your skin. So this is just one of the many ways you can repair a leaking air hose like that. I should pay attention here to see where it's filming. I put my hand in the way and I'm not paying attention to where the camera is pointing or where my hands are. Okay, so I'm going to start like an inch or so away from the area, because if you just tape the immediate area, then tape starts to loosen really quickly. It needs an area of adhesion to not come undone so quickly. And then we might have to do this over with multiple layers just because it's so bulky. We'll see what we can do here. So let's put over the area, and then we'll go past it on either side of the clamps. We'll go past it for like an inch or so, just to give it some adhesion and some consistency. And you don't want to stretch it too hard. If you stretch it too far, then you're kind of losing the point of the tape, and then you got to put on more tape. So it's kind of like this balance of tension on the tape as you're putting it on. And then you don't really need to go away from the clamps that much, because it's not like you're sealing a leak with these. You're just making it so that as it's passing through your hand, it doesn't hurt your hand. So I think that's pretty good. I mean, you could theoretically put like goop on there, and you could make it so that it's way evener than this will be when I get done. But this will do the job, and it's our first time doing it like this, so we'll see. And then you don't want to stretch it and rip it off, because that end where you stretch the tape and rip it off comes loose really quickly. And I always just use a knife. Even if you just start it with a knife and then tear it, it will come around. You just start it with a knife or you can totally cut it off. And then I see how nicely it came off, and it's not stretched. So this will adhere. This end will adhere, and it won't come loose for a really long time. And so that's what it looks like. So now we got it all protected, and when it's passing through your hands, it won't rip your skin as you're passing it into the retractable reel here. I want to see if I can move this up to where you see, and I will retract the hose here. And I'll just show you how it's retracting. Okay, so this is a Flexzilla, and I won't say too much about the reel. It works pretty good. See how nicely it went through my hand and in? It went through my hand super nice without ripping my skin, see? It's just passing through nicely, see? Undo this one now. There we go. There it is. And that is how you repair a 3/8 air hose. I guess it would work on others too. With a PEX waterline crimp like this, and your ratcheting PEX crimper. So that worked amazingly well. This is the part that we cut off. So yeah, this is just one of the various ways you can fix a leaking air hose. All right, thank you so much. Thank you for watching.